you dirty dogs, and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we take a look at the highs and the lows for the most recent Premier League match week. Joining me today, it's Zac Chelab. How the devil was your weekend, my curly-haired friend?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too shabby. Went to the cinema, saw the new Spider-Man. Very good. I recommend it if anyone is about. Got a haircut. Yeah, not too shabby, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I had a great time, mate. Went to Covent Garden, soak up the Christmassy atmosphere. Bought myself some shortbread from Hotel Chocolat, so bit decadent. And, of course, watched Celtic lift the League Cup. The Ange Postecoglou era kicking off in earnest. Silverware back on the mantle. Anyway, let's start today's show with the talking point, as per usual, before we move on to our winner, loser, and moment of the week. And throughout the show, I want you to like if you agree with our decisions, or drop a comment if you disagree with them, and me or Zac will get back to you in the first hour. I also wanted to say, we have been promised we'll be in our new studio by the end of January. So what would you like to see more of on this show, and what would you like to see less of? I imagine you'd like to see less Zoom calls. Us too, believe you me. Anyway, let's move on to the talking point, and I've titled this on our Word document, What VAR You Watching? And that is because VAR was at the centre of an enthralling 2-2 Premier League fixture between Liverpool and Tottenham. Of course, it was played out at the Tottenham Hotspur Arena, and Liverpool, as a result, have lost further ground on Manchester City at the summit of the Premier League. But we're going to save the stats for the next section, because this game, like I said, mired in controversy. And Jurgen Klopp was so incensed with the standard and consistency of refereeing in this game, he actually confronted Paul Tierney following the final whistle. We put it out on FD Twitter. It blew up. Have a look at it here. Right, so let's have a look at what led to the German's outburst. Was he justified, or was he being a little crybaby? So incident number one, Jalab, was the Harry Kane yellow card. Now, he was given a yellow card for a high tackle on Andy Robertson after 20 minutes, if you haven't seen it at home. I imagine you have, because it's been all over the timeline this morning. Now, Klopp's take on it was that if Andy Robertson's foot was still on the ground, Kane would have broken his leg. Zac, remove Robertson's tackle later on in the game from your mind. We'll discuss that in just a second. Should this, as a standalone incident, have been a red card?
Yeah, I think so. People mention about whether it had intention or not. Really, I think a tackle like that, when it's so reckless, I don't think intention matters. You don't have to purposely be trying to do that. It's just a very reckless and stupid challenge. And so, yeah, I do think it probably should have been a red card. And this was obviously just after they'd gone 1-0 up as well. He'd scored the goal, and it kind of felt like Harry Kane had gone from hero to zero straight away. I thought he was very, very lucky to get away with that. And I think Klopp's right as well. Like, VAR can't say hypothetically that if his foot was on the ground, we would have given him a red card. Like, it's still the same challenge. Just because someone's come off it not as hurt or not injured or come away from it in a much better way, shouldn't mean that that means the punishment for the person that did that is less. Like, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Agreed.
And it should be a red card. Like, Harry Kane was very lucky. I think even Harry Kane afterwards, he came out and was like, "Oh, I thought I won the ball." Like, I think even he kind of realised, like, yeah, I got away with that one.
Yeah, ultimately I agree with you. The attacker or the guilty party in any incident shouldn't be rewarded for the recipient of the tackle getting out the way, should they? That is stupid and sets a very weird precedent. Now, you mentioned Harry Kane's reaction to it. Let's have a listen to that right now.
No, definitely not. I thought it was a strong tackle, but I thought I won the ball. Obviously, I haven't seen it back, but look, when you're playing against top sides and you're fighting for points all over the place, sometimes it's going to be strong tackles. And look, if they've obviously checked it, it stayed as a yellow card, and we move on.
Would you have understood had it been red?
No,
you didn't think
I haven't seen it back, but from on the pitch, it didn't feel like it. And then even Andy on the pitch said, "I just caught my foot don't think it was a foul. So obviously I think sometimes when you slow stuff down in football, it makes it look maybe worse than what it is, but that's what VAR is there for. So we got on with the game, and like I say, we look at the positives and what we can do in a busy period now.
So Harry Kane, not repentant there, and it was interesting that he said Robertson didn't mind the tackle, in real time, that he said, oh, you just caught me. He didn't demand a red from the referee. I'd like to see any follow-up comments from Robertson after he's seen the tackle from the multiple camera angles that we have. Incident 2 then is Salah's handball in the build-up to Robertson's goal. Now, this season, the refs were encouraged to adopt a more forgiving interpretation, let's say, of handball when it comes to natural body shape and whatnot. Safe to say that Conte didn't share that opinion after the game. He said that his staff were incredulous that it wasn't disallowed. He claimed not to have seen it. I imagine that was just a very diplomatic response to said question. What did you make of it, Jalab? Would you feel highly aggrieved if you're a Tottenham fan, manager, player?
Yeah, no, 100% I would be. Now, I don't quite understand how they have said that it was within the silhouette of his body or the way they described it, because the ball has obviously come over the top. Salah has tried to head it down to control it, and what he has then done is gone from his head onto his arm to then go onto the floor. And whilst I can understand that they have tried to make it a little bit more forgiving, I think that is fair enough. Like, this is just a blatant handball. He has controlled the ball with his hand. Like, him using his hand in this action has made it to his advantage for the ball to slow down even more, for it to be controlled even more. Like, the ball completely changes by hitting his hand. And so I think in this instance here, it has to be a handball. Like, it completely changes the game. It then causes Lloris to come rushing out and punching it away. Whether they then look into it as well being another phase because the Spurs player has then touched the ball and changed it, that is something as well that could be a reason. But I think in an instance like this, yeah, like, he just uses the silhouette. I don't know if we'll put some sort of image on screen maybe, but and again, like, in real game time, it's probably not as bad as it looks with these images. But yeah, I just think it has to be a handball. I can't quite understand, because this leads to so much, like, the consistency of football. Like, this is always a thing that I have with these decisions is, okay, in this game this is happening, but then in tomorrow's game or in a week's time, this same incident could happen and it'll be given the other way. And that, it just, to me, isn't fair.
Yeah, still feels too subjective at the moment, doesn't it? What would you guys like to see as the resolution to this sort of situation? Let us know in the comments below. I agree. I don't think it's on purpose. I don't think he deserves a yellow card, but then I also don't think Liverpool deserve the advantage afterwards. Yeah. And consistency, like you said just there, it is a term we're going to build up towards here, because ultimately that is what we're looking for at the end of this, aren't we? This is not a video bashing VAR. It's about how it's utilised and how often said rules are followed. Let's move on to incident 3 then. Robertson's yellow card being upgraded to red after VAR intervention. And I think Paul Tierney and co might have got away with the previous 2 incidences had this not unfurled the way it did. Yeah. For me, this was the catalyst. This is what all the chatter, what it's about, where it comes from, really. Because Robertson, of course, scored, went from hero to zero, receiving his marching orders for that pretty vicious swipe on Emerson Royal in the 77th minute. Now, originally, he was awarded a yellow. VAR intervened, like we said, and it was graded. Pretty reminiscent of MacArthur's swipe at Saka earlier in the season, where there was no repercussions whatsoever. Now, what was your immediate thought when you saw this in real time and then in super slow-mo?
If I'm being completely honest, I actually thought this was a yellow. I didn't think it was, especially after seeing Harry Kane one, right? Like, that's how you're judging how things are on the game, right? If the referee's not giving a red for this, surely the referee's not then going to give a red for Robertson's tackle. And don't get me wrong, again, it is careless, it is reckless, but based on what happened in the game, I was like, well, that's about the same. And this is, again, the level of consistency, the consistency of the things that are happening in this game, and the consistency, as he's mentioned, of the thing that happened to Saka earlier this season. How are any players meant to know what's going to be what, or what the punishment's going to be for doing what, if they just have no idea? And again, like this time, the VAR tells the referee to go over to the monitor to have a look. And I think that's fine. Like, I have no issue with him then going to the monitor, because it can also be a red card. I can see why. And him making that decision, thinking, okay, yeah, that's a red card. But then it blows my mind that he didn't go over to the monitor to look at the Harry Kane one earlier in the game. Like, this just, as a Liverpool fan, I can see why you'd be so frustrated and why you'd be so annoyed as to seeing this. And I'm not, as I said, I'm not that bothered that Robertson got a red card, because I can see why that's a red card. I think that's fine. But again, it's the level of consistency of what's happened earlier on in the season, why that was not a red card and why this one is. And look, if, say, the Premier League came out, or the Referees Association, whatever it is, came out afterwards and go, you know what, we got the Saka one wrong, the Robertson is the right decision, it is a red card. And they come out and they go, look, the Harry Kane one, we also agree it was wrong. But they haven't come out. They've said that, because of him not having his foot planted, it's not a red card. But which to me is mental. But again, to focus on the Robertson decision, this is a red card. But the consistency, as we keep mentioning, is just mind-boggling. Yeah,
he set an unmanageable precedent with the Harry Kane one, didn't we? This could have been a red in a more timid fixture, but you have to establish some consistency. There's a chance to right some wrongs there. I guess that's not how it should be. If a referee, reminiscing on that Harry Kane yellow card at half time, thinks, damn, that should have been a red, that shouldn't inform his next decision.
It shouldn't.
But like you said, no level of remorse after the fixture, kind of sticking to their guns, and it just sends out a confusing message. Klopp also, like you, nonplussed as to why they didn't review both incidences in the same manner.
Robbo red card. It's not the smartest challenge of his life. That's how it is. But that's definitely a red card. There's no doubt about that. Now people will say, but his leg is in the air, but it's just pure coincidence. And Harry cannot judge that. When Robbo's leg is on the ground, then it's a broken leg, no doubt about that. So there are no two. And now it's a question. Why isn't... So we are sitting there, and he thinks, have a look again at the Robertson situation. Fine, that's what he's there for. What did he do in that situation?
But we're not done there. There's one more incident, and that was Emerson Royal barging into Jota in the box, which for me felt like a nailed-on penalty. Now, Klopp did elaborate in his post-match on the situation after he discussed it with referee Paul Tierney, and he said in his presser that the ref didn't give a penalty because he thought Diogo Jota stopped on purpose because he was trying to buy the foul. Now, that, to me, is utterly mind-boggling, because I've just never heard that rationale before. Strikers invite contact all the time. Yeah. People like Jamie Vardy have 40 Premier League goals from doing so, and they're hailed as streetwise, aren't they? As the defender, it's about denying them the opportunity to do that, or not to take the bait. That is, for me, a big part of the art of defending. So to say that Diogo Jota invited the contact, thus didn't deserve anything when he was bundled over, again, mixed messages. It's just real. Not only was the consistency on the pitch poor, the communication off it has felt random and arbitrary. What did you make of this as well?
No, mate, I'm in complete agreement. Like, I agree. He goes over very easily. Like, it's a tackle that he's looking for, and I think the referee understands that. But what the referee is making the decision, the defender is stupid, or they're silly if they then go and bite, as you said. If they then go and commit the foul, if they go pushing in. It's not a shoulder to shoulder, it is a push. And it's over the top. Again, it's reckless. These are all things that we know in football to be a foul. And if that happens anywhere else on the pitch, it's going to be a foul. But because it's inside the box and the way the game had been going as well, I think maybe Paul Tierney's thought, do I then make another decision that could, be another talking point? But because he hasn't, it's still a talking point. And I think, the referee there has made a really, really silly decision because it's over the top, it's reckless, it's stupid, and it should be a penalty. Like, even though they are right in saying that Diogo Jota has probably stopped himself, he's still gone and given away the foul. He's still gone and done that. Like, again, if a player just stops in the box, doesn't move, and a defender still goes into him, wipes him out, it's going to be a penalty. Like, it is what it is. And I think, again, it's just really, really silly from the referee.
Yeah, and I think this has brought the wider question of refereeing in the Premier League sort of into the quality of refereeing in the Premier League into disrepute again, hasn't it? Because we saw light touch refereeing incorporated into the Euros really well. People heralding the level of officiating in that tournament. The Premier League had 5 officials go to that tournament and be part of that excellent refereeing. Now, of course, it's different when the games come thick and fast like they do in the Premier League. There's not enough officials to have a dedicated offside referee stationed wherever the VAR is, for example, because on a Saturday there might be 5 kickoffs, and there is just not the level of top level referees that there needs to be to make that happen. And I'm not saying that's the solution either, but people, the public, fans in general, are a little bit confused as to why it went from being so good refereeing at the Euros to shades of last year, where we had Patrick Bamford's infamous offside arm goal, Sadio Mane's pixel wide offside goal in the Merseyside derby, Lee Mason disallowing that Brighton goal against West Brom. It just doesn't feel to a lot of people like we've improved from the 2021 campaign. And they promised it would improve year on year. We know that technology takes a long time to embed into sports, and rugby and cricket and tennis had these teething issues at the start. But this is literally a world-leading product. We've got to see more sizable improvement before our eyes than what is currently on display. Just really annoying, isn't it? And I mean, the perfect solution for me in these games would have been, I think, probably a yellow card for both and a penalty for Diogo Jota and a handball for Salah. Yeah. I don't know if you want to wrap up those scenarios with your 4 takes as well.
No, I'm in complete agreement, to be quite honest. Whatever the Harry Kane one should have been is whatever the Robertson one should have been, for that consistency of level up, because they're both reckless, they're both kind of stupid. I think they both could have been this. They both should have probably been awarded the same thing. It's about having the consistency for me. In everything, just as a player, knowing that, okay, if I go and do that Harry Kane tackle, I'm going to be awarded a yellow card, or if I'm going to do the Robertson thing, I'm going to be awarded a red card. Like, knowing what level of it is, because now if say someone in the game on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, if they even go ahead, but say someone then does the same Harry Kane tackle, but it's not Harry Kane, it's a guy that's known for being a bit reckless. Say Jorginho does that. Someone that can be a bit reckless, doesn't quite know what he's doing when he gets beaten by the man or whatever it is, and or someone with a history of kind of reckless tackles, and they do that. Would they then be given the red card because they've got a bit more of a history about doing it? It's Harry Kane, it's the England captain, whatever it may be. So yeah, and I think it's also a shame as well because the game was really, really good, man. Like, Spurs played really good football. Liverpool's attack was kind of actually not to the standard we'd probably seen recently. Defensively, maybe not to the standard we'd seen.
Unsurprising
recently.
When their midfield was ravaged
of course,
with
COVID,
COVID,
and missing Van Dijk. And it's a shame that we're coming out of this talking about the decisions of a game, when a game that finished 2-2 and had so many other elements of Dele Alli missing a great chance, of some fantastic saves from Alisson, but also a mare. And instead of talking about that, we're talking about VAR, and it feels like this is what we continue to keep doing year on year. And it's about, look, I'm not expecting next season to be perfect. I'm not expecting the season after that to be perfect. But in 5 years, if we're still talking about decisions nearly every single game, what's the difference of even having VAR, to be quite honest?
It's about noteworthy improvement and good communication off the pitch as well. It feels like the only difference that has been made this season is drawing a fatter line when determining offside decisions, and even then, it's not led to those marginal calls being any less aggravating to take. Anyway, let's move on to our winners and losers, and we'll zip through these fairly quickly because we did spend a lot of time debating those contentious points. Our winners come from Matthew Wah this week, and they are Arsenal. Of course, they beat an injury-ravaged Leeds 4-1 at Ellen Road. Before we lavish praise on Arteta's Gooners, I do want to note that Luke Ayling was playing at centre-back for Leeds. Drama, who I've never heard of before, was playing right back, so great shift from him. Gelhardt was starting up top. He's only just broken to the side this season, hasn't he? Cock and Harrison also returning from niggling injuries. Clearly they're not up to match fitness yet. Still, that makes it 3 wins on the trot for Arteta's men, having beat West Ham in impressive fashion just 3 days prior. Now, Zac, at 24.8, Arsenal have the youngest squad in the Premier League. But my question to you, do they also have the best young front four in the league as well?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, probably. When you think about it, the fact that they have 4 players who can all kind of do different positions and play together really, really well is really impressive, man. Odegaard over the past couple of games has really switched it on. He started looking like a fantastic investment. I think we always knew there was a player in Odegaard. But recently, whether that's just with consistency or him having a bit more confidence in himself, having a bit more of a routine without Aubameyang playing, they've been really, really good. I think they've also really benefited from Lacazette recently. He's stepped up his game and been kind of showing that experience for them on the pitch when it's been needed. And I think Mikel Arteta's made some really good decisions when he's dropped Emile Smith-Rowe recently to let him kind of recover, have a bit of rest. And when he's brought him on, he's been a fantastic impact. I mean, we can talk superlatives about Saka like we have done over the past couple of years anyway. He's always fantastic. And then Martinelli, like for a little while, it felt like Martinelli just kept getting an injury, wasn't showing it. But the past couple of games, he's been really, really impressive, been in imperious form, and been an absolute nuisance. He's kind of started to show again like this really exciting Brazilian youngster that Arsenal have invested fantastically in. But as a front four, like it's for an Arsenal fan, it must be really, really fun to see these guys play football and to understand that, look, right now they are very young and it's about getting experience for these guys, and the fact that they're playing this well together already is fantastic, and that, okay, in a couple of years' time, these guys could, and if everything else goes well with the squad as well, the midfield, etc., could really have a strong future.
Yeah, I mean, of those names you just mentioned, the oldest is Martin Odegaard at 23, which just feels... I've used the phrase before on the show, mind-boggling. The fact that Saka is still 20 is frightening.
Wow.
How can you be that consistent? How can your output be, that sizable in such a, in your formative years? It's crazy. I mean, Martinelli, 6 goals and assists in 7 starts. Smith-Rowe, 9 goals and assists in 13 starts.
Yeah,
Saka, 7 goals and assists in 16 starts. Odegaard, 5 goals and assists in 12 starts. And when I say front four, obviously we have to envision a world where Arteta's playing a 4-2-3-1 and Martinelli is leading the line. Like you said, that is Lacazette at the moment. Martinelli's playing out wide, and it's proved very effective at current. But you can imagine that being the lineup in years to come.
Yeah.
And if they tie them all down to 3-4 year deals, if Martinelli doesn't disappear off to Manchester United like Joseph Tomlinson was tweeting about at the weekend in a reminiscent fashion of Robin van Persie, then yes, that will put them in very good stead to become a consistent top 4 side again. We have criticised Arsenal's transfer dealings in the past, but some clarity has emerged in the last 12 months, and it's probably paying dividends a little bit quicker than people imagine. And I think sticking by Arteta, like I've kind of been an apologist, an Arteta apologist for the last 18 months. I think it's going to prove a pivotal decision for them moving forward. And they're looking like a much more complete side at the moment, aren't they? Anyway, let's move on to our losers, which are Chelsea. This comes from @Rachel7000. If you want to contribute winner or loser or a moment of the week, then look out for my tweet on Sunday night or Monday morning. Thank you very much to the guys who submitted one this time around. Right, Chelsea, Zac. I mean, not a lot to say here because, in your words, an utterly boring fixture. Now, you've drawn consecutive games on a bounce, winning just 1 in your last 5. Last 5 games have been a tough watch for a variety of reasons, because there's been no goals, there's been a gluttony of goals, and there's been a lot of goals conceded. I mean, even though you probably did do enough to claim victory over Everton, I think a 1-1 there, not representative of how you played. But take us through some of the talking points in this match then against Wolves, and sort of explain how they're kind of representative of some of the wider issues that are plaguing Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah, it's not been great. I mean, if I'm being honest at the moment, Chelsea seem to struggle with either they can defend really well but can't score, or they can score but can't defend.
Is that the balance of the starting 11? Because I saw that Chalobah started in central midfield in this game.
Yeah, but to a degree, like, this is also, and I don't want to sound like I just keep repeating myself, but this is the squad issues. Like we said at the beginning of the season, Chelsea had really good depth, and we do. We may not have necessarily the same level of, I've always said that I think maybe City have a slightly better depth just because of their quality in their depth. But when the virus hits you and just like you've got injuries coming out of your ears, no squad have the depth to cover for it. When 7 players are out with COVID, then a couple of other players are out with injury, and you're having to start N'Golo Kante, who is about 60% fit. Kovacic is having to come on, who's definitely not fit. He's had like 2 training sessions in 2 months. I think it kind of shows you where it's at, and the balance is definitely not there when you're playing a front 3 that doesn't have, or the squad that goes into the game doesn't have a recognised striker. Like you kind of know what you're in for in that game. And that's what I think it's been recently for Chelsea. But then you look back to the Everton game, and Chelsea also aren't taking their chances. Again, they didn't have a recognised striker. But I don't know how Chelsea didn't score in that first half. For me, it's much easier to take a draw like this against Wolves, which I personally believe was a draw, than a draw against Everton, where you come away from that feeling annoyed that you dropped 2 points. Christian Pulisic had a chance, but that was really it. Jose Sarr made a fantastic save for them. Wolves had an offside goal. They also had a penalty shout from Kante's handball, which I think is an argument. Like, I think there's definitely an argument for it. But yeah, like I also got to give credit to Wolves as well. Like defended really, really well. I think if you saw it by the end of the scenes, because in the second half, Saul Niguez came on and was actually probably had his best game in a Chelsea shirt. He actually kind of changed the game for Chelsea. But yeah, I think by the end of it, both teams probably could come away being like, yeah, draw's a fair enough result. But like, look, at the moment, these injury issues are affecting, and COVID issues, it's all kind of come at once for Chelsea now. A bunch of key players have been taken out, and so like I don't want to be too harsh on them and say like they need to be doing better, when I mean they should have done against Everton, but I think you could tell with the frustrations of the manager and the players that like when Chelsea are trying to call off the game on the day, I think you can kind of tell where their heads are going into that game.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, I don't think either side did enough to score in this game,
Yeah.
didn't they? I think both sides collectively produced an expected goals of 1 between them. And I saw Wolves deploying a midfield 5 for just the second time this season. Leandro Dendoncker clocking up 4 tackles, which was a game high. I kind of think that sums things up. It was a game of attrition. Wolves came to muddy things up and to nick a point if possible, and it happened. So fair play to their game plan. Yeah, Chelsea didn't have enough about them to break them down. Like you said, Chelsea heads do appear to be elsewhere at the moment, and I think that Thomas Tuchel's interview after the game pretty emblematic of that.
We talk a lot about safety and about protecting the players. Not so sure if we did this today, and on we go.
Rounding off the show then, it is Moments of the Week, and I have 3 suggestions here. The first being from @BenFlied, and that is Gnabry claiming 5 goals and assists in Bayern's 5-0 win. That is bloody impressive. Leo Kovac has suggested Tadic for breaking the assist record in a calendar year. I think he toppled Messi, which is pretty insane, isn't it? And @Mattel saying Kyogo's finishes in the Scottish League Cup final deserve Moment of the Week. What are you going to go for? Are those 3, Jalab?
None of them. I'm going for my Moment of the Week and winning a bet. That's what I'm going for. It was long odds. The group bet that we do every week, £2 in, and we won 800 and something quid. I went for Plymouth, and they won. It was a great result. But if I have to pick one out of those three, I'd go Tadic.
That sums you up. He's put himself as moment of the week. Also, I did want to end this show by saying that the Premier League clubs will debate whether to postpone an entire round of festive fixtures at 1 p.m. today. So hopefully there's some clarity on that by the time that this goes live. And this is probably going to go live a little bit late because I've got to go down to PC World to buy a new SD card reader. Mine's gone. It's vanished. And the game in hand, or the game week in hand, of course, is the fixtures from the 28th of December to the 30th. Yeah. They're the most likely ones to be sort of postponed in advance. A pick of the bunch of those games, Leicester versus Liverpool, actually had a ticket to it, so fuming that's not happening. But safety first, of course. And yeah, what might keep the games going ahead is that Amazon have 2 of those 3 rounds and they've paid £30 million for them reportedly, and they don't expect them to be put off yet, or maybe the point in time has gone where they can make that sort of call and not face heavy financial repercussions, the Premier League. So a bit of a mess at the moment, and expect a lot more of it in the ensuing week. Zac, is there anything that we'd like to plug across the 2 channels that can bring a bit of zen back to people's minds in light of all this tumult?
Yeah, well, if you guys are obviously going to be at home quite a bit over the coming days, make sure you're checking out the Football Daily content all over the channels. Make sure you check out ERU to check out the continental football that has been happening in Europe. Keep your eyes peeled over this week for more Football Daily content, because what else are you going to be doing? Can't really go outside that much. And why don't you check us out on Snapchat as well by typing in Football Daily. Stay safe, enjoy the festive periods. Come on, get through 2021. 2022, lads, is going to be incredible.
Yeah, our plan is to still produce daily content over the festive period, apart from on Christmas Day, but we'll still be doing Snapchat content on Christmas Day. So you'll find us daily across the whole Football Daily universe.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense. Right, yeah, like Zac said, stay safe, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye.